Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Real Estate Success Show with your host here, Sean Sturrock, and I am delighted and pretty fired up about this one today. Mr. Aaron Kinn, you guys are going to hear from, is a consistent $20 million plus producer. Been doing this for about 20 years, so get your thinking caps on, get your pens and pads out, and be ready to take some notes. I'm sure there's some good nuggets coming that way. We'll be right back with you in about 30 seconds.
Awesome video.
All right. Well, welcome, Mr. Aaron. We are excited to be able to visit with you today. Let's just start off. And man, how has the summer been going with you so far in this crazy shift in the market, right? In these last 50 days?
Yeah, so we definitely felt the shift like everybody else and seen it happen. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. It's going to separate the good agents from the guys that have been operating the last couple of years. I mean, if you had a pulse, you could sell homes the last couple of years. I mean, you were in a lot of competition and things like that, but I think the market's going to weed out the not so good agent or those that, don't know what they're doing on the marketing side or how to represent a buyer properly, those kind of things. So I really like this kind of market that we're moving into. Because it makes somebody like me that's been in it a long time get a little bit more of an edge, honestly.
Yeah, it's almost like we're really almost going to somewhat of a normal market.
Normal, yeah. This has been absolutely insane what we've been experiencing.
Well, let's do this just so everybody gets a little background on you before we dive into all this. Just kind of take us back to even a little bit about you personally, maybe your family and stuff, and then what got you into real estate and what's this journey been like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in real estate now 21 years. As of September 1st will be 21 years exactly. Yeah. So when I got my license, I was actually a full-time school teacher and coach. I taught art and coached basketball and baseball. So, perfect background to get into real estate.
Yeah, lots of contacts.
Yeah. I actually bought my first house. And I was like, man, I was the easiest client. I walked in, said I need to buy a house, and then 4 hours later, I was under contract.
Mine was similar with who, Sean Corbett, when I bought this first house we looked at. So he got to love that.
Yeah, I mean, it rarely happens. I've had a couple of those over my time in 21 years, but not very many. And so I was kind of disillusioned a little bit, but I was like, man, she made more in 4 hours than I'll make all month. And I'm working 12 to 15-hour days with coaching and stuff. So I went and got my license. I had to do it all correspondence back before, really the internet. That was dial-up back then. So you had to do it all out of books and send in your Scantron sheets and all that stuff. And did well enough, I guess, that I got my license. I did that for the remainder of that school year and then went full-time. And my first year that I was full-time, I sold 37 homes. So
and you mind me asking, Aaron, when you first started, who were you with? What
a little bitty company called Prudential Keystone, which isn't around anymore. Okay. That was the one I walked into. And so when I went back, when I got my license, I was like, hey, do you guys hire any other agents? And they're like, yeah, I guess so.
A lot of agents get started, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I went in there, and I think I had one small advantage where I was a little more techie. Back then, the MLS was DOS, like the blue screen, all that. You couldn't email out of it. Like you couldn't email properties. So we held a lot more stuff to our vest as an agent. You had a lot more leverage on your clients. Okay. Well, I had a friend that in college was a computer programmer, and I had him build me a little script that I could actually email homes out of the MLS. And I was one of the only ones I knew that could do that for about 2 years. And so that really helped.
I was going to say, I bet that propelled you. So how'd you end up doing your first couple of years?
37 homes my first full year. Wow. That would have been 2002, 2003. I think we did 59 and then 83. And then after that, 100 plus. So,
wow. So let's speak to that for a minute. So for agents that may be watching this, whether they're new or let's say they're an agent, maybe even 3, 4, 5 million, and they're trying to take it to that 6, 8, 10, right? So many people just want to increase their volume. What advice might you give an agent like that who's maybe around that 3 to 5 and they're trying to go to the next tier?
Yeah, 3 to 5 still a really good producer.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're doing good business. They're developing some good habits. I think at that point you need a coach. You need a coach that's going to coach you on systems, leverage. How do you leverage people, technology, and tools to help make your job a little bit easier, and also make your clients more involved in the transaction as far as they get more out of you, out of the transaction. Even though you're doing more business, they get more of you, simply because you can leverage things like technology and people.
So speaking of a coach then, so early in your career, did you end up hiring a coach yourself?
Yeah. So 2002, I did hire a coach in June, and I had one for that same one, basically 14 years. So
just the Craig Proctor, I think.
Craig Proctor. Yeah. Craig Proctor coaching, and the myriad of coaches throughout that. I even coached with him for a little while. I coached other agents.
Okay.
And of course you coach your team members, but I think that's the biggest thing. Step one is having a coach, because they're going to tell you things to do that you maybe know to do, but they're going to hold you accountable to them.
Yeah.
Like starting a team, or, going and hiring that first assistant. Like I did it wrong. I hired a buyer's agent first before I hired an assistant, because I was like, well, I don't want to, the buyer agent is going to be free. I don't want to pay for the assistant. But it's actually the wrong way to think of it, because the buyer agent isn't free. The buyer agent actually costs you 50% when they're successful, because that could have been yours that you could have closed down, right? So, or whatever your split is with that person. So have somebody there that helps you itemize and organize and systematize your business. So then when that buyer agent is successful, when you're training them and they're bringing in more deals, it's no extra work on your part. You're just doing the training element of things. If you don't have that assistant, now you have to be the assistant, help them do all the paperwork and submit all the forms. And
Yeah. So first of all, you're saying definitely hire an assistant before a buyer's agent. I agree with their help. Let them help you get all the systems and everything in place that can help you lay the foundation for growth. Absolutely. Before you start bringing a buyer's agent. So take us further down, because I know a lot of folks may not know you ended up running your own independent brokerage. So take us up to that point, and what made you spin off and start your own independent?
Yeah, so I was after that little Prudential Keystone, I went to Keller Williams in 2003 and was there 6 years.
Okay.
And was in the top 50 with Keller Williams International a couple times in those years. And then I decided at that point, I no longer needed my broker, because my broker was, in my estimation, was a hindrance. They were taking money and weren't really providing me anything. I was the one that was running some of the training at Keller Williams. I would do training sessions, and just because I wanted to give back to the community, I would do those. I was on their ALC, things like that. Well, I'm doing all this for free and getting nothing in return except for, hey, good job, good class, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Where if I didn't do those things, I could actually do that for my team and pour more back into me and my group. So I decided, it's time to go. Left in 2009, had my own brokerage for 9 years and never felt any ill effects. Like a lot of people worry about going out on their own because they're like, oh, brand's not going to be with me, or, we have the same thing. Obviously I'm with EXP now. We have the same thing. Like, who's this EXP? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who EXP is. It matters who Aaron Kinn is and what I'm going to do for you, Mr. Seller. Right? Exactly. Because even back then, when I was with KW, for instance, you'd have one KW agent that would do absolutely nothing on the marketing front for a seller. Let's say, they wouldn't even take professional photos. They'd take pictures with their phone or throwaway cameras or whatever, those little bitty cameras. And, they weren't good. But that doesn't mean every KW agent is not good. There's a lot of great agents out there. KW is a great company. Like, they train me well as well too. So, but I come in the door behind that KW agent and I do all these other things. you're different. We're all independent contractors. So the brand doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So let's talk a little bit about being an independent in case some brokers are wanting to watch this or happen to come across this. What are some of the biggest challenges? So you start that independent, you ran it for, like you said, 9 years. What are some of the biggest challenges you had running that brokerage yourself?
The biggest challenges were the liability. I mean, honestly, the liability you had for every person that you brought in. So I was always used to having a team for years and years. But if somebody made a mistake or did something wrong, I would have a little bit of liability. It'd fall on that agent, but it would roll up to the broker. Well, now I have these agents, it all rolls up to me, whether they're on my team or whether they're an independent. In my brokerage, all of that rolled up to me. And I had one roll up to me where an agent did a transaction with a family member, never turned it into my office. So I didn't even know it existed until I got a lawsuit letter on my door. So, and the E&O insurance companies really don't care if, they're having to pay out. They don't care that you knew anything or not. You're going to quadruple your rate or what have you, because we had to pay out. Right. So that was the number one hardest thing. Second hardest thing was being a small independent. What were you going to do or add to these agents' lives as either independents or as team members? That was a reason to pick you versus going with an EXP or a Keller Williams or a Coldwell Banker, or the myriad of companies out there. What were you going to offer that gave them more of a benefit? What was your technology? What was your office staff? Did you have an office building? There's a whole nother thing, all of that stuff you had to do in order to get agents and then retain them, because it's no point of going and getting them if you can't keep them.
Well, I've never even really asked you about that. So when you and I met back a few years ago, I think you had 7 or 9 agents.
9.
Yeah. So just share with us how that's worked. So were you trying to get it larger than that? Was it larger than that one at one point in time? Or what was the turnover, the retention? What was that like over that 9 years?
I was lucky in some regard as my top agent, so it stayed with me for a long time. So I had one agent that was with me over 10 years. And that's pretty rare to have a buyer's agent that stays with you that long. But I would say retention was pretty good, but I did start seeing more and more of that peel off. We were going from a heavy REO market to where it's starting to come back to a normal, stable market. I didn't really experience the white hot market like we had the last couple of years with my own independent. But I started seeing where, one would peel off, I'd get another one in. So it was that constant, churn. But that took me away from production too. And so one of the biggest problems was when interviewing brokers and talking to other brokers, not even interviewing, I'm just talking to them at conferences and things like that. If you stripped away their production and what they were doing on their own, their brokerage wasn't making money. It was costing them money.
That's
same with mine.
Deja vu.
Stripped away all the money I made, all my expenses were more than anything my agents brought me.
Yeah. Well, so that kind of brings us up to when I met you back. God, has that been almost 4 years ago?
It was 4 years. I joined EXP 4 years in April. So,
So I remember, and all this came through a good buddy of ours, Jeff, who I'd reached out to. Jeff, who ended up reaching out to you, is how we ended up meeting. But walk us through that. So here you are running this brokerage, you're successful, and you just commented a second ago, everybody may not know, you were the rainmaker at your brokerage, right? You were doing over 20 million. If I'm not mistaken, your office was doing around 47, 48 million when we met, but 23 of that was coming through you. So the exact same thing. Yeah. When you pulled yours out, the office was upside down. I don't know how many other brokerages are like that, but most of the time I'm talking to brokers, I am finding that fine line is getting thinner and thinner on that net margin. Just harder and harder to keep them. They're going out the other side. 80% of the agents we lose. We know that within 3 years, they're out of the industry. And then a lot of people are struggling with those other 20%, the ones that become successful. What do they tend to want to do?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes because you're having to feed them, right? So not only like feed them information and knowledge that they can utilize in their own conversations with buyers and sellers and marketing and lead gen and conversion. You got to teach all that stuff, right? So that takes time away from you. But then you have to supply things like leads and technology and office space, and all that stuff just eats away at profit, at the end of the day.
And were you yourself being the broker? And I know you had an agent you stayed with you for almost 10 years, but were you doing a lot of the training yourself? So not only you hired,
I was doing all the training myself.
All the training.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And we'd even record it and give it to them where they would have a place to log in, and they never did. They still don't. I still have it. Like when I bring agents on, they ask me questions like, it's in that video. Here's the video, And,
so real quick before I go to this, the question that's going to kind of help wrap this thing up. You do have my curiosity kind of peaking right now. So if you're a new agent, a newer agent, maybe whether it's new or even in the first couple of years, what would you say to that agent? What does it really, really take to be a successful agent? Whether it's all massive action, what would you recommend to someone just getting started? If they really wanted to come out of the gate fast, what would be your recommendation in their first 6 months to a year, other than hire a coach?
Yeah, if they're brand new, they need to have a warehouse of about 6 months of living expenses put away.
Okay. Speaking truth. All right.
Just being honest. I mean, even if you look at the most successful person, like I see teams that are, you'll have a closing within your first month. Okay, well, you have to spend about $3,000 or $4,000 to get your license. Then you've got all the dues once you get your license, which is your MLS dues and whatever brokerage you go to and so on and so forth. Then let's say you're really good at conversing with a buyer or seller and you get one right away. Well, the soonest they're going to close is 30 to 45 days,
True. Yep.
So it might take you 15 or 30 days to find them a house, so right there's 2, 3, 4 months where you have made no income.
Yeah. And so you're out several thousand. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens is most people brand new, they work so hard on getting that all the way to the finish line that they stop marketing. They stop prospecting. So they have to start all over again. And now it's another 2 or 3 month cycle before they get paid again. Right. Yeah. So I think the team is very viable. Why you should be on a team to start your career. One, you're going to ramp up your learning curve. It's going to take away the huge arc and flatten it out a little bit because you're going to learn things a lot faster. You're going to be with somebody that's done it a lot longer. I wish that teams were a thing back when I joined real estate because I think I would have even gone faster, but they are a big thing now. So I think that's the best route to go for a brand new agent.
Yeah.
That other than that, they need to develop a big database, 100 to 200 people that they can start communicating with right away, right when they get their license.
Yeah.
So they have a built-in business, and then you have to be good on things like social media and with marketing and how do you keep that engine running, right?
Yeah. Especially today, this whole social media thing is it's almost like we keep hearing, if you're not involved in doing a lot in social media, doing video and all that stuff, they're saying you're probably going to be left way behind here in the next few years. So definitely something I think all of us needed to get better at. Okay, so let's fast forward to you coming on board and joining eXp Realty. So here you are, your own independent. Yes, you're successful. And all of a sudden you get reached out to from our buddy Jeff to take a look at this model. What's going through your mind when you first looked at the information that this brokerage had to offer?
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting next to my wife at our kitchen table. Yeah. Looked at the presentation, I think it was a video back then. Watched the video and I'm like, they did something that I've been trying to do. Like Glenn opened eXp the same year I went independent.
Okay.
I mean, almost identically. We almost had an identical path, small independent company, Prudential. He was the same way. Yeah. Then KW, then independent, and then eXp. Right. So, but I looked at it and I was like, they're solving two of my problems that I couldn't figure out how to solve. One, they've created a residual base of income in real estate. I've always said like I've been in other network marketing companies where it's like, man, if real estate could figure out how to do that, that would be the way to do it. Didn't realize it had been figured out. I just didn't know about it yet. But they figured it out. Like, how do you give a pat on the back for someone helping your company grow when a new agent comes into that company and is successful within it, and you keep getting that benefit over and over again? So they figured that out. And then second thing, the biggest thing for me was long-term. Like, I had been in at that point, I think 16 years as an agent, and I had like no money saved up. I bought some houses, things like that. That was my retirement. I thought, okay, I'm going to retire through owning real estate. The problem is when someone changes their Harley oil in the middle of your living room floor and you got to replace all of that, that's like 4 years of income gone in one tenant, right? So it takes a long time to earn that real estate wealth, right? So when I saw the EXP thing, they had stock. It's like, okay, this can be something I know I'm going to get because I'm a productive agent. I know I'm going to hit Icon, which is you pay your $16,000 cap, then you do 20 more deals after that. That's easy for me in my business. I'm going to do that every single year, and I'm going to get my $16,000 in cap back in the form of stock. No brainer, right? So basically I'm at a zero cap, or actually when you extrapolate the numbers, and if the stock goes up at all, I'm actually making money. They're paying me to be at EXP. That doesn't make any sense, but that's what's going on. I was like, okay, if this is real, then I'm definitely interested. And I looked it up. They're and back at that point, they weren't in the NASDAQ. Now they're NASDAQ stock. We were able to accumulate and still accumulate quite a bit of stock, and I know it's there. I have something for retirement. I can still buy houses and still do the other stuff. Sure. But I'm going to earn this stock doing exactly what I did anyways. Help people buy homes, help people sell homes.
Now, you being what I call obviously a mega producer, right? Probably top 1% across the country. Speak for just a minute, because I know you got a pretty incredible story of what took place with you on that equity, right? Right before we went public on the NASDAQ. Kind of share with them sort of what took place with you and what you were able to do because of that equity.
So we had been in, I think it was a couple years at this point. So we'd earned quite a bit of stock. We had I think we were around 12,000 shares, 12,000 shares of stock at that point that we had accumulated. And the stock price started going crazy because there was talk about a doubling and the market was nutso, COVID and all that stuff. All real estate stocks were going crazy. EXP stock got over $100, $115 a share at some point. We had, in reality, over $1 million in stock, which is crazy in a couple of years. I thought, okay, if I work 20, 30 more years in real estate, maybe I'll have $1 million in stock sitting there. But we had it in 2, right? So we actually cashed out, a couple thousand shares and went and paid off our life. So we bought all of our cars, all of the credit cards, business debt, all that stuff we paid.
That is awesome. That is totally awesome, man.
We kept the most of it. I think we still have 17,000 shares now. Stock's not near as good, but again, every stock market goes up, stock market goes down. I know that. Well, I'm in accumulation mode. I like it low.
So just going to say the same thing. When do you buy stock, right? When it's low, because they're all accumulating it right now. So that's awesome. So if we kind of bring this in for a landing right now, if there was you being part of EXP, and we're on a team that we call the Freedom Team. And I know, matter of fact, you've even come on there and hosted a couple of times, been one of our trainers in our masterminds. How advantageous is that for agents that if they ever decide to come on board with EXP to be a part of a group or an organization like the Freedom Team? Can you speak to that for a minute?
That's awesome. Like, I was on there Tuesday, and Kelly was doing a training on building wealth through a insurance vehicle. I was like, holy cow, I've never even thought of this. Awesome. Like, I'm sitting there like taking all these. I'm like, I never thought I would have been in some place that would have been my training in real estate, but use that real estate money to help fund your future. It was awesome. but yeah, no, there's a lot of, most of the training is revolved around real estate, how to grow your business, how to run a team, you know, how to be effective within this business. A lot that we're talking about now is the change or shift in the market. How do you handle that? What do you have to do? How do you talk to people now? So I think it's phenomenal that you have a place where you can go and plug in, right? And I've told many people that this is the only place I've ever been at EXP. I was with Keller Williams a long time, and they talk about the family and all that.
Yeah.
There's many people I asked, hey, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? Oh no, I'm not going to tell you, you're a competitor, right? Like, this is the only place I've been where everyone shares openly. You talked about Corbett, like, we go head to head all the time, or not all the time, but I've been on appointments that he's been on,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but we gladly share information back and forth on what we're doing, how we're helping, you know, like,
Yeah.
more than enough business to go around. But we know that the better he is, or the better I am from what I learned from him, the more the company grows, the bigger the stock grows, hopefully. And,
Yeah.
you know, we reap the rewards of it.
Yeah. It's either, we talk about it. I'm talking to agents all the time about the camaraderie, the culture, how people are willing to literally open up their playbook and all their, biggest things that they've used in systems to grow their business, and they're sharing it with all the other agents. So yeah, that has been a huge plus. One of the biggest things that I've seen. So is there any one last thing maybe you'd like to share with everybody if they're checking this out and wanted to know a little bit more about how you, again, have achieved this kind of success, and or as we look out maybe even over the next 2, 3, 4 years, what does it look like for you in this market and what's going on? What would you say to some folks as you look down the horizon in real estate and what's going on?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is really get good at your skills of what you're doing, especially on the seller side.
Okay.
Lately, the seller side of the market, you throw it on the MLS and boom, it sells. It didn't matter if it had pictures or terrible pictures or anything. Now is the time to be a professional. So if you don't know how to do that because you haven't been in long enough or what have you, get training so that you know how to market a list, how to talk to sellers, how to tell them what the market's doing. Like, a lot of sellers are saying right now, oh, the market's terrible, you know, but they're disillusioned. They don't remember 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Right. That the market isn't really that bad. We're still in a seller's market. No, listings aren't selling in 6 hours with 32 offers. Right.
Yeah.
But that has never happened before. Right. We're still in a very strong seller's market, low inventory. Buyers on great homes still have to compete, you know, so you have to be able to show that visually to a seller and know how to talk about that, and pre-frame, that's what I call it, pre-frame it with sellers. Hey, if we don't have a sale within the first 3 weeks, 3 weeks, you wouldn't have my home sold in 3 weeks. Yeah. Yes. We're in that kind of market now. It may take 3 weeks, 6 weeks to sell your house. Here's what we do when we don't have something. Right.
Yeah.
So it's being a professional. You have to communicate with your clients now every single week. Before the last couple of years, no one did that because the home would sell within a couple of days.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and I would assume someone doing 20 plus, I think 30 plus million, you were saying, I think you're even on track to do systems that people need to be putting in place. Highly recommend, like CRM stuff. What kind of things do you have in place to maintain this kind of volume, the relationships with your past and current clients? What do you do if we were to drop that couple nuggets for people as well?
CRM is absolutely a must. I don't care which one it is, KV Core, Commissions Inc. There's a billion of them out there. Top Producer. I mean, if you want to go real old school, it doesn't matter which one it is. It's just the one that you will use. Yeah. So if you're not going to log into some online system that tells you what to do and when to do it, build an Excel spreadsheet that'll tell you what to do and when to do it.
Yeah.
But you have to have something that tells you when you last talked to somebody, when the next time to talk to them is, and then a running record of what was said during those conversations, notes.
Yeah. And which could almost be another thing that an assistant could almost kind of help you with, get it all set up and get that database set up for you. But wonderful, man. Well, first of all, thank you for your time. Congrats on your success. It really is mind-boggling. We're doing $25, $30+ million consistently every single year. I know a lot of people look up to you. we're blessed in the Freedom Team to have you be a part of it. And I really mean that. And we sincerely appreciate all the feedback you're giving to so many of us when you do training. So thank you so much. If you guys want to reach out to Aaron, find out more about him, I've got my information at the bottom. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. We'd be more than happy just to share with you what we're doing over here. See if there's anything we can do to help you take your business to another level. So with that said, let me wrap up and just kind of play this last 30-second part of the show, Aaron, and thank you so much. And I hope you have a blessed day, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Appreciate it.